Welcome to today's podcast episode. I've brought on Bethany Jennene. Bethany, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to talk to you today.
I know that you have such an interesting story. So if you wouldn't mind, give a little background. Where do you live and what do you do?
Okay, great. So I am a SoCal girl. My family's actually originally from the Midwest, but when I was like 3, we moved to Southern California. That's where I was raised. I went to college in the Bay Area, and then I made the jump and went to law school in Washington, D.C. So I lived on the East Coast for a little while, did the whole East Coast bad weather thing. It was the first snowfall was really fun. After that, I was totally over it. And so about 3 years ago, I moved back home to California, and now I practice at a law firm. And kind of in between that time, dealing with some personal health issues, I was diagnosed with Crohn's. I ended up starting my own nail polish brand called Top Code. So I run Top Code on the side on top of practicing law. And Top Code is by far my more favorite of the two things that I do. But that's kind of like what I'm up to lately.
Yeah, can you give a little more background? So I know that you experienced this health issue and then you wanted to find ways, you love nails and being girly, but you wanted to find ways to have less toxins in your body. So maybe can you dive into that a little more?
Yeah, definitely. So when I was diagnosed with Crohn's, I had no clue what it was. And so I had to do a lot of my own research to kind of figure things out. And even though they have no idea what causes it or even have a cure for it, they believe that it's caused by external factors, which are things that come on contact with your body. And so once I learned that, I kind of decided that I wanted to try to find ways to eliminate as many chemicals and harmful toxins as possible from my life that I was coming in contact with on a daily basis. And, you know, in our modern world today, right, it's really hard to be like, I'm not going to come in contact with any chemicals because like everything we touch or consume has had some kind of chemical influence. But I figured there were small little ways that I could work that into my life. And so I was telling my mom about this, and she knows that I've always been obsessed with my nail polish, always had my nails done all through middle school, all through high school, all through law school. And so she introduced me to these nail polish brands that were 3 free, which means they didn't have 3 of the most common carcinogens contained in them. And so I kind of took that and ran with it. And I got rid of my whole nail polish collection. I bought all new nail polish that was low toxin. And then after a while, I just started making my own because I figured it'd be more fun, and you can buy low toxin nail polish based in chemicals on your own and just mix them. So I did that for a little while. And then after a couple years, I kind of just got some encouragement that I should turn it into a business and start like sharing my nail polish with the country, I guess. And so that's what I did a few years ago. I launched Top Code, put my website up, and it's just been it's my first venture into entrepreneurism also. So it's been a roller coaster, but it's been a lot of fun.
Right. So how did you, I mean, it's such an amazing backstory. And I guess the silver lining is now you've got to bring in this creative side into your reality and how much fun you're having with it. But so you started small and had your own. Were you just selling them to friends and family? Like, how did you actually get into salons or however you're selling now?
Yeah. So when I first started, I was just making for myself and like my mom, really. I'd make her, she likes purple, so I'd make her some purple shades and like give them to her for Mother's Day or whatever. And then I started showing some friends some things. And so when I decided that I was thinking about maybe turning it into a business, I started going to small farmers markets around town. So I was either going up to the Bay Area or down here in Southern California. And I would set up my little table. I got my my tablecloth, my logo on it and everything. And I just started selling there. And I got a really good reception from just selling at the markets. I'd have some people email me like, oh my gosh, I really love your polish. It's one of my favorites. I love your colors. And just being out at the markets and meeting other women entrepreneurs, I kind of got plugged into some really awesome opportunities. And so recently I really have broadened my brand. And so I am in a couple salons. I'm in one in Florida. Some other online retailers have reached out. And so I'm getting put on some online marketplaces. And it's kind of just like a word of mouth thing. Like as people buy and like, they Instagram about it or, you know, share my business card or whatever. And so just watching it grow from this small little thing I was doing just in my bedroom, basically, to what I am now, it like makes me so happy.
No, it's amazing. And then, so what is Crohn's like for you today? Is it something you still deal with?
Yeah, so back right before I started actually making the nail polish, I had a really bad flare up, and I ended up having surgery and part of my small intestine removed. And so after that, it's really helped push me into remission. Surgery is not for everyone, and they don't do it on you unless you're in a really dire situation, and I was. But since then, I've been really asymptomatic. I still keep up with my own, things that I've developed. So like I use a lot of turmeric when cooking, or I'll do turmeric lattes or whatever, because it has really great anti-inflammatory properties. And I try to watch what I eat, and I exercise, and I do my own system still. But thankfully for me right now, I'm symptom free. My brother actually has Crohn's too, one of my younger brothers. And so he's still symptomatic. So I still work with him on, acupuncture, different things that he can do to try to help manage his symptoms as well.
Yeah. Well, good for you that you are past that.
Thanks.
Another thing that we've discussed previously that I want to talk about is I have a paralegal background, and so I used to work in the whole legal field, and I understand how hard attorneys work, and they're very focused and driven and at times workaholic. So can you maybe dive into the whole analytical side of you, but now how you are bringing in this creative and creating this balance in your life?
Yeah, so that was probably one of the harder parts of me really starting Top Coat, because and so on top of just being a lawyer, I work in a law firm, which is really like all the stereotypes about lawyers are really pushed in law firms. And so before I started Top Coat, I would always tell people and myself like, oh, I'm not creative, best thing I do is like read and write briefs, and I don't really have a creative side. And so when I started making nail polish, I approached it that way in the beginning. So I was like scouring the internet and books, trying to find someone to tell me like, you need 3 parts this, 2 parts that, and then add this dash of this, and that will give you the perfect nail polish formula. And there's nothing like that out there. And it was really hard for me at first to overcome that hurdle, because that's what I was expecting based on my background. And so once I got over that, and I realized that, creating great cosmetic products is really just about trial and error as much as it is about science, it really helped me like kind of break free and really expand my nail polish brand. When I started it, I was kind of hesitant though to tell other coworkers and some of my former classmates about it, because, it's like, hey, you're a lawyer, you have a good job. Why are you out here trying to make nail polish? People kind of like foo-foo on it, like, oh, that's just a cute girl thing to do, and don't really take it seriously. And so kind of like finding my own balance, I realized that if I wanted to be whole for Bethany and not for anybody else, I was going to have something I liked doing, and making nail polish happened to be that. And so it's really helped give me something outside of my career that I've been able to kind of grow and help me not become like so stressed out, for my work days.
It's awesome. And I guess what you talked about, this whole happiness. So I think for you, bringing on this creative side has kind of made, do you feel more fulfilled?
100%.
Okay.
Before Top Coat, I was going to work and I'd come home, and I still drink wine after work, but I would come home and drink wine and like watch a couple TV shows and tell myself like, that's my relaxation. Right. And then I realized quickly, like I wasn't really being fulfilled by that. I wasn't really relaxing. I was laughing at the jokes on TV, but I wasn't doing anything to really benefit myself. And so once I got Top Coat and I really started investing in something that I liked, I could just visibly see the difference like in myself in the mirror and in my mood. Like knowing that I had something that was my own really helped kind of just improve my well-being like across the board. I was happier when I was at work. I was happier when I was outside of work. My weekends were more fulfilling. Like knowing that I was doing Top Coat, which was my thing, really just injected some life and energy back into my life. And it's one of the things I love the most about it, is that it's mine,
So what was your mindset shift?
Yeah, I think my mindset shift was after I had been practicing law for a couple years, I was really just, and especially once I started getting into firms, I was surrounded by people that had kept on the same path and were really dissatisfied with their life. And I would look at them and I realized that I did not want that to be my reality in the future, And so I decided that I had to kind of establish some boundaries. If I was going to have a different life, I had to do something different, right? And so when I started up Top Coat, I realized that was going to be my differentiator. That was going to be my difference, my thing that I did to make sure that I kind of stayed true to myself and didn't fall into, I'm using trap for lack of a better word, but kind of there's just the trap of the monotony of the legal practice.
Right. No,
Yeah.
I totally get it. So something else you told me when we first spoke is that I guess for creating this whole happiness, you told me that you have to define what you want. And through that, you've created kind of a writing process, and there's 4 areas of life that you are focused upon. So if you could dive more into that.
Okay. Yeah. So I try to reevaluate my life on a, I mean, I do kind of on a quarterly basis. At the beginning of the year, I always do one big eval of the year, right? But me, because I'm one of those people where I have a million ideas. And so if I don't constantly check in with myself, I'll forget about like great ideas that I had or like things that I started. So I have to check in with myself regularly. But when I do, I have a system, my analytical side, that I've created where I've divided my life into these 4 quadrants. And so they are my finances, my health, my spirituality, and just my personal life. And when I have these sessions, I sit down and I look at each of them and I decide, I reevaluate the goals that I set during the past check-in, right? So did I meet these goals? Did I accomplish them? What are some of the things that I need to do better at? So for example, with my finances, one of my goals was to save up. I'm trying to get like 9 months of my gross salary saved up, right? Which is hard to do while you're like running a business and everything, but I'm still trying to get it. But so, at my quarterly check-in, I'll say, okay, this is the amount of money that I want to have in my savings account. And I'll kind of try to divide that out over however many months I think it's going to take me. And then I'll check back in quarterly. Or with my spirituality one, that's a big one for me because it's kind of the easiest one to get thrown to the wayside because, we know we need to focus on our finances. You got to keep up on your health, but spirituality sometimes can be kind of one of those things where if you have to sacrifice one, it might be that. So I try not to make it a chore, but I do say like, okay, how many times a week do you think you need to meditate in order to operate at your best? Or, how many times a week do you need to take a long lunch or do you need to take a vacation day or whatever? And I'll kind of try to set some benchmarks for myself. That way, at least I have something to shoot for. And, at the end of the quarter, if I'm like, hey, I only meditated once a week, but that worked out for me, then that's fine. And I'll keep up with it. But if not, then I know, okay, I need to either reevaluate, increase or decrease this area, With my personal life is kind of my catch-all. That's my, hey, you need to make sure you like check in with family members. You have my parents, my dad comes from a really big family. So I have my grandma has like 20 siblings and my dad has
Whoa.
6. And so there's a lot of aunts and uncles running around and I love them all. So I try to catch up with them. So like in my goals, I'll be like, oh, make sure you call Uncle so-and-so in the next couple months. You haven't talked to him in a little while or call Auntie so-and-so, whoever. Or something else. And this kind of bleeds in with my spirituality is just spending quality time with friends, right? Where I live right now, a lot of my friends don't live near me. And so I really do have to make an active effort to make sure I'm saving up money and the time to be able to say, hey, want to visit New York to see, Rachel this month. Or like one of my friends got married last year in North Carolina. So I really had to make sure I made time and money for that. But I found that having my quarterly system really is a good way for me to make sure that I'm like branching out on all the areas that I need for me personally to kind of like be at my best level and be a whole me.
So a question that comes to mind is this quadrant. And I mean, that's amazing for you to sit down because I know a lot of us even, all right, let's talk New Year's resolutions, right? We sit down, we have ideas for the year and things we want to accomplish. And then what? By February, they're kind of out the window.
Mm-hmm.
So quarterly is an awesome plan. But for you, when maybe you notice in second quarter, you're not quite hitting goals that you had set for Q1, what do you do to realign or maybe to work harder, save more, call more? What are you doing to meet these goals?
Yeah. So I think that my first step is that I always try to think like, what's the reason why, So I will use like increasing my water intake because that's an easy one. So if like the beginning of the quarter, I'm like, oh, hey, Bethany, you should try to drink like, I don't know, say I want to drink like 10 full glasses of water a day or something. And then I look back at the end of the quarter and I'm like, okay, I was only at 3. So I'm like, well, why is that? Like, and usually the problem for me is that it's because I'm working during the day and not thinking about it, and I don't have water accessible near me. So, this actually was a real problem I was having. I was trying to drink more water and I kept not hitting my goal. So I decided that what I'll do is I'll start my day out first thing in the morning, drink some water, because that kind of will get a glass out the way and kind of get me going. And then the other thing was I had to buy a water bottle that had the exact amount of water I wanted to drink a day and just keep it at my desk at work, because that's where I am most of the time. And then I kind of also have my backup water bottle. You know how people have like backup chapsticks everywhere because they like always lose them, which I do also.
Yes. Yeah.
But I have yeah. But I have like backup water bottles. So I have another one I keep at my work computer. I keep some in my trunk in a cooler. So that way I always have water with me. And that has really helped me increase my intake. So anyway, long story short is, I guess I always try to figure out why, like, what is the reason that I didn't accomplish this goal, and then work around it, because it's not because I don't care. It's just because there's something that I didn't anticipate that has gotten in the way. And so I need to figure out what that barrier is and then break that down. And then the road to success for the goal is easy.
So I guess for me, it's because I love creating kind of a formula or a plan. So it's plan of action, then you're actually taking steps. So physical movement or drinking more, saving more, whatever. So plan of action, steps, and then you come up with the outcome. Is that
Okay. Yeah.
fair?
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think we're like saying the same thing, but just have different processes to get to it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So got it. No, I think that's amazing. So now you're halfway through 2018. How is, are you setting aside goals for Q3?
Yeah. I need to sit down. I think I have it in my calendar. Well, because 4th of July is coming up, so that's a free day for me. So I was like, all right, I'll sit down during that time and kind of start thinking about Q3 when it comes up. But I was looking at some of my kind of my first quarter goals that I had. And excuse me, one of them going back to like meditation. I really am always on the mission to increase my meditation practice, because that's one of the things in my life that I found that when I do it, I just feel better. Like, even if everything else hasn't been in shambles, but even if it was, if I was meditating, I feel like things would still be going all right. And so where I live right now, there's a couple meditation studios. I've gone to a few. I don't really love any of them, but there's one that I really love in LA. And I'm in LA at least like once a week. And so something that I've been trying to do is schedule some of my LA trips around the meditation session that I like to go to help me kind of like, get the work that I need to get done down there, but also accomplish my meditation goal for the week, and do it somewhere that I really enjoy being and like love the space and love the energy and love the vibe, you know?
What does meditation do for you?
I think it's one of those times where I really just get to sit and just like be there, you know? Because when you're working, or when I'm working at least, I'm always thinking about like, what needs to be done next with this step. You know, when I get off work and I'm doing top coat business, it's always like, okay, like behind me here, these are my calendars where like I plan everything out. So I'm always like, they're only the calendars for like the upcoming months, because I'm looking forward, like, all right, what are the next things that need to be done? And so when I meditate, it's one of the few times where I get to just sit and I'm like, I'm just here right now. Like, I'm saying these words, I'm sitting on this cushion, I'm doing these things, but for this hour or 45 minutes or whatever, it's just going to be me and my meditative state. And I love it. And, you know, whenever I leave, just, I'm able to get more work done afterwards, because my creativity is like heightened and like my energy is heightened, and it improves my whole mood. I don't know. It does everything.
That's what I was going to ask. Do you have inspired thought come to you during your meditation practice?
Yeah. You know, I thought that I would, but actually what happens is it comes afterwards. So usually if I meditate, I'll go and like the example when I'm in LA, because I have to drive back home, I'll either like go to a coffee shop or a smoothie shop or wherever, and I'll just sit down with my notebook. And then usually like as the ideas start coming to me, I'll just jot them down. If I happen to be on the road, because I am an attorney, I have one of those little dictaphone thingies with me that I usually use for work. But if I have that and I have a good idea, I'll either speak it into that or into my cell phone notes section. So usually stuff comes to me afterwards, but I feel like the quality of the ideas that I have after meditation are much better than the ideas that I just have any other time of the day.
Yeah, that's awesome. I have found for myself, I've been traveling a ton lately, and for me, being on a plane is the one time that I am kind of backed into a corner. It's, I have nowhere to go. I'm in that space. I'm in my seat, and I always have a window seat. And for me, that window seat and kind of being able to daydream, that's sort of a meditative practice for me. And just yesterday I was on a flight, but again, I get out my phone and notes, and yeah, that's when clarity comes and the ideas are flowing, and I got to write them down.
Mm-hmm. You have to write them down as soon as you think about them.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
awesome. Good for you. Meditation is still something I'm working on. My goal is to do it daily as part of my morning routine. So,
Okay. Yeah.
I like to wrap up each interview with what I call rapid fire questions. So I have 3 for you, and
Okay.
it's just one of those, whatever comes to you first, you blurt it out.
Okay.
Okay. So the first one, what advice would you give yourself 5 years ago?
Oh, 5 years ago, um, probably would be just say yes. Because I think that I had a lot of fun opportunities that came up, but I was kind of afraid of saying yes because I was overthinking and overanalyzing things. And I think that especially 5 years ago when I was in my 20s, just say yes, because you have the time, you have the cushion. If things don't work out, that's fine. Learning experience and move on.
That's a powerful one for sure. What is a quote that you live by?
Okay. There's a quote by Maya Angelou: "Nothing will work unless you do." And I heard that a couple years ago, and I've adopted it as my life mantra. I really believe in it. Like, none of the plans that I have are ever going to come to fruition if I'm not the one out there doing the work and making it happen. So I actually keep it on my door. I keep that on my screensaver on my desktop. I think about that quote at least once a day to kind of keep me on track.
So would you consider that an more or less a daily affirmation for yourself?
Yeah, I guess it is. Yeah. It's
That's
my
awesome.
affirmation. It's my mantra. It's my motto, my theme song.
You have embodied it, but I mean, it's working for you. So that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
And final one, what is a book you're reading or one that you highly recommend?
Oh, okay. So one of the books I'm reading right now, it's called Kata Warrior. I'm really into sci-fi. And so I don't get a lot of time to read my books, but when I do, I try to read something fiction and fun to kind of, I don't know, have fun. So anyway, this book is called Kata Warrior. It's the second in a series, and it's about this young girl. She's albino and she's Nigerian, and she finds out she has like magical powers. And so she meets these other friends that also have magical powers, and they kind of like battle different evil like ghosts and things like that come at them. But it's just a really fun book. It's like one of the few really fun things that I do where there's no thought involved. I'm totally wrapped up in it. And so the woman that wrote it, she's actually, I don't know if you're into Game of Thrones. Okay.
I've
Well,
never seen one episode. I
okay.
know.
I know, Heather. Well, the guy that wrote Game of Thrones, he is gonna executive produce a TV show based off of another one of her books called Who Fears Death. And so I love her as an artist, and I'm really excited for the show to come out. So I've kind of just been like consuming everything she has out right now in my free time, my fun time.
That's awesome. You got to have time to let go.
Definitely.
Bethany, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your story and all about Top Coat. I will include links below so listeners can purchase your product.
Awesome. It was great talking to you, Heather. Thanks for having me.